What will it take to reshape Michigan's future? Will a better business tax structure be the catalyst, or is there more to it than that? There's an argument an investment in education will lead to prosperity and that improving the state's central cities will also play a role. We discuss on West Michigan Week. And thank you for joining us on West Michigan Week. On the panel, flying solo, Carol Valade, Grand Rapids Business Journal.
Patrick.
Good evening to seeing you here. And Lou Glazer, President of Michigan Future Incorporated.
Good to be here.
You've been here before.
I have.
And we love having you here because the study just gets better and better and better.
Well,
and
not so much.
Well, it continues to prove a point.
Right. So, and the point is pretty, I think, fundamental. It's a hard lesson Michigan's having to learn, but the reality is for 2 decades, although it's accelerated since the economy collapsed, we have an economy that's increasingly knowledge-based. If you look at the economy nationally, over 2 decades, you've got about 35% job growth in the knowledge-based part of the economy, 9% in the rest. And the knowledge part of the economy now has average wages of $60,000, the rest of the economy $33,000. So both job growth and high wages are concentrating in knowledge-based part of the economy. Michigan's fundamental problem is that we're way over-concentrated in the declining part of the economy, and unless we change it, we're going to continue to lag the country.
I want to go back just a little bit, Lou, and talk about the study. This has just been released in the last few weeks.
Yes.
And you were working with University of Michigan. I was going to say of Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
but the same thing but different. And economists there to put together this white paper and all of these comparisons. And so this is broad. You looked at every region in the United States.
Correct. So we looked at all the states and the 55 metros in the country, including Grand Rapids and Detroit, that have populations of 1 million or more. And we looked at them, most broadly over a 20-year period to see what's been happening. And, the basic pattern is that the states across the country that are doing the best are either following 2 paths. For states like Wyoming and Alaska, they've got oil and natural gas, so high energy prices are making them prosperous. Everybody else is prosperous because they're concentrated, as we talked, in the knowledge economy. Most important, they have a high proportion of their adults with a 4-year degree, which is the single biggest predictor of income.
Adults with a 4-year degree.
It is trumping everything. It trumps taxes, it trumps weather, which is sort of this crazy excuse we have in Michigan why we're not doing well. It trumps everything, and Michigan's 36th in college attainment. That's our big problem. And in those states, they've got a big metro that's even more prosperous than the rest of the state, anchored by a vibrant central city. Those are the characteristics. It's not policy-driven. It is education attainment-driven, particularly in big metros and central cities.
Education, knowledge economy. What businesses then are you seeing highlighted in that?
Exactly. So we've been trying to get people to focus on the notion that the knowledge economy is much broader than high tech. There's this notion that it is healthcare, education, finance and insurance, this cluster now that's called information, which includes the media, old media, new media, software and telecommunications, and then this broad category that's business and professional services, which are law firms and engineering firms and architecture firms, all the rest. That is the knowledge economy. It's 45% of the jobs in America, 60% of the wages in America, and all of the job growth in the country for the last 10 years.
And you're saying Michigan as a whole ranks it's dropped 19 places just at what, in the last 10 years?
Exactly.
As a survey?
Exactly.
Dropped another 19.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. We built America's middle class, mass middle class in the 20th century, and we had a 100-year run, which is terrific. But that run was based on largely high-paid, low-skill, predominantly factory work. So we get to 2000, we're still 18th in per capita income. We're still in the top 20. In 2009, we're 37th. That's at 19. No one has fallen that far that quick, ever. since the Fed started keeping statistics in 1929, and it is because the factory-based economy, the low education attainment economy collapsed, the knowledge economy is rising.
And is Grand Rapids sector doing any better than the rest of the state?
Actually worse than the rest of the state. So
That would be surprising to most people.
yeah, exactly. So if you look at the data, the 55 big metros, Grand Rapids is 54th, next to last in income, 44th in education attainment, and 54th in concentration in knowledge economy. So, you know, using Governor Snyder's sort of description of the economy, West Michigan at the moment is still sort of the 2.0 Michigan, not the 3.0 Michigan. And as long as you're sort of part of that 2.0, you're going to be low income. And that's
Even with
the
all
problem.
the growth in meds and eds in
Right.
this community,
Correct.
the medical community, healthcare, the education communities, we're
Yes.
still, even with the Van Andel Institute and all of the researchers that have been brought in,
Right.
we're still ranking below the Detroit area.
Yeah, although Detroit's collapsed too. So Detroit is down to, you know, so West Michigan's 54th. And when I say West Michigan, it's Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Holland. It's the 7-county area, not just Kent County. So Detroit's fallen to 41st, but it's still ahead of where West Michigan is at 54th.
And the
out of
education
55.
attainment?
The education attainment in Metro Detroit is 39th, I think, and it's 44th here. So, you know, they're both, look, we spent so much time in Michigan arguing about who's doing better and all the rest of the stuff. The reality is they're both very similar. They're both way too overconcentrated in the low education attainment part of the economy. And the important thing is for the state to understand is if those two metros don't work, the state doesn't work. The whole future of Michigan is tied up in whether Metro Detroit and the city of Detroit and Metro Grand Rapids and the city of Grand Rapids work, period. Because the knowledge economy is concentrating in big metros. So our two big metros have to work. Today they're not. They have similar challenges and should really be working together to try to figure this out as opposed to fighting with each other.
What's
It's nuts.
the suggestion list?
Well, you know, I mean, I think ultimately.
How long might this take? Another 20 years?
Yeah, well, that's, you know, I wish it was different. I mean, we looked at, in last year's report, we looked at Pittsburgh, which is sort of the model for an industrial
I was in
economy.
Pittsburgh for a while.
Exactly, yeah. So Pittsburgh sort of had the steel industry collapse, you know, 20, 25 years before the auto industry. So they have now made this transition back to a knowledge-based economy. They're now 15th in per capita income amongst all these big metros. Their income compared to the country is as strong as it was in the steel heyday. So they've made the transition. It took them 25 years. And I don't know if you can do it quicker than that. But it's 25 years from when you start. So we got to start.
We have a couple of graphics.